Hello and welcome to the 6th day of April 2023. My name is Cyril Aloysius here with the newspaper review on TAP TV, and I'm super excited to introduce to you Jennifer Wamo, who's going to be joining me for today's news reading. Jennifer Wamo, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and to go straight to the headlines for today, we'll be starting first with the Guardian newspaper. And this one says, neighbors feed fat on Nigeria's poorly funded, inefficient seaports. Neighbors feed fat on Nigeria's poorly funded, inefficient seaports. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And this one here says on page 6 as well. This one says, Afenifere, Igbo leaders tackle Mohammed over treason, poll claims. Afenifere, Igbo leaders tackle Mohammed over a treason, poll claims. Okay, that story as well is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Over now to page 15 of the Guardian. This one says, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, slowing regional growth, says World Bank. Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, slowing regional growth, says World Bank. That story is on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper. And on page 12 of the Guardian, we have INEC and imperative of financial accountability. INEC, an imperative of financial accountability. That headline, more details on that headline is on page 12 of the Guardian. And lastly, in the Guardian, we have on page 30, this one says, opposition parties plot to produce reps speaker. Opposition parties plot to produce reps speaker. Okay, that story is on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. All right, that's it for the Guardian newspaper for today. Jennifer, please let me get your thoughts on this particular, the boldest headline here in the Guardian newspaper, which says Nigeria's neighbors, I beg your pardon, neighbors feed fat on Nigeria's poorly funded, inefficient seaports. Let me get your thoughts on that headline.
Yes, Nigerian seaports, they've not been doing very well for the past 8 years that President Muhammad Buhari has been on seat. I don't think that he has done more. In fact, he hasn't done anything about the seaports. Are we talking about the road networks? They are very poor. Are we talking about the dredgings? We have different seaports. We have the one in Lagos, Tinkana line, the one we have in Port Harcourt here, the Onne port. Then we have the ones in Warri. We also have ones in Bayelsa. But these particular seaports, they are not faring well. The Buhari's tenor, they are not trying. Because from the ports, we're supposed to generate lots of revenue. But what happens? The revenue coming from that side keeps going down and down and down. It keeps sinking. Nothing is coming out from there.
Okay.
Do we talk about the gridlock because of the poor road network? There's no access to the ports. Let's look at the Lagos Wharf. That's around Tinkan, around Apapa. Some days the trucks stay days, months before getting to the wharf. Then talking about the neighboring countries eating from there, the neighbors. The neighbors is not just people living around the ports. Look at Ghana here. If Nigerian ports don't have what it takes for containers to come from outside the country and dwell here in our port, they will have to stop at a nearby port. That means that whatever we are supposed to get here, those people over there are getting it. And then let us look at the management of the ports. You come to a particular port. Instead of using trained personnel, people that their work is to do these engineers, now you give it to people in politics to maintain a particular port. What do they know? What are they going to do about it?
So you're saying the government needs to do more in that regard?
Yes, the government needs to do more about the ports. Let us look at so many of the ports that are in Warri, here in Delta State. The channels are blocked. They need to do lots of dredging. But the government is doing nothing. about
Okay.
it.
So apart from the government not doing enough, do you also see these challenges of these ports largely as a result of the location?
It's only the location.
Yeah.
What is with the location?
Like maybe since like we have a port in Lagos now, maybe if we have more seaports in, let's say, the east or some other parts of Nigeria, maybe we'll have a better experience of seaports. Don't you think so?
That will be an added value, Cyril. That will be an added value. But first of all, let's talk about the ones that we have. Let's talk about maintenance. The already existing ports. What is the government doing about it? Remember that these governments have spent 8 years, and whatever was part of their plan was maintenance of the seaports. Look at the road that leads to One. Early last year, July, I happened to tour that road. My brother, it's nothing. In fact, I don't know what to say about that road. That's One here. Do you want to talk about the Tinkan Island? Then I've mentioned Bayelsa, Tema Port in Bayelsa. Nothing is actually happening there. Let's talk about, I've told you about other ports that are in Delta State, in Warri. It's actually the Navy that are managing it. The Maritime that are the ones managing this thing. But the interesting part of it is that if these ports are well managed, they can actually generate lots of revenue for the Nigerian society. But it's not done that way. In that case, since the ports are not managed properly, it's the neighboring countries that are actually eating, other parts of Africa that are actually eating what Nigeria is supposed to benefit from the ports.
Okay. All right. I get your point. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for your thoughts
You're welcome.
on that headline. Let's move straight now to the Vanguard newspaper, where we have more interesting headlines as well.
Yes.
Headlines here in the Vanguard. This one on page 5 says, DMO. Why government debt is rising as LCCI others list ways out. DMO, why government debt is rising as LCCI others list ways out. That story is on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. It is the boldest headline there in Vanguard. And this one here on page 9 says, Obasanjo writes UK court pleads for Ekweremadu and wife. Obasanjo writes UK court pleads for Ekweremadu wife. That story is on page 9 of the Vanguard. And on page 8 we have court stops Abure others from parading as Labour Party exco. Court stops Abure others from parading as Labour Party exco. That story is on page 8. And over now to the world of sports on page 30. This one says, Huddle urges Chelsea to sign Osimhen. Huddle urges Chelsea to sign Osimhen. That story is on page 30 in the world of sports in the Guardian, the Vanguard newspaper, I beg your pardon. And on page 8 we have Versities, others to get 320.3 billion naira intervention funds. Okay, and on page 13 we have Easter. FG declares Friday, Monday public holidays. Okay, that's an interesting one there on page 13 of the Vanguard newspaper. On page 6 we have Boko Haram kills pastor, injures wife, others in Borno. Boko Haram kills pastor, injures wife, others in Borno. That's a sad story there on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. And on page 27 we have NSIA Vitol sign agreement for carbon avoidance removal projects. That's on page 27. On page 9 now we have second Niger bridge opens to traffic next month. That story is on page 9 according to the federal government. The second Niger bridge opens to traffic next month. That's according to the federal government on page 9. And on page 26, this one says, Peter Obi describes leaked audio as fake, goes to court. Peter Obi described leaked audio as fake, goes to court. That story is on page 26. On page 27 now, we have a petroleum subsidy. Petroleum subsidy. Federal government secures a $800 million World Bank fund for palliatives. Petroleum subsidy. Federal government secures $800 million World Bank fund for palliatives. That's the reason on page 27. And on page 9 now, we have those questioning legitimacy of Tinubu's victory saw losers. Those questioning legitimacy of Tinubu's victory saw losers, according to APC. Soyinka flays Dati for threatening judiciary on TV. That story is on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And lastly, on page 8 here of the Vanguard, we have World Bank. World Bank. Nigeria's economic growth insufficient to reduce extreme poverty. World Bank. Nigeria's economic growth insufficient to reduce extreme poverty. That story is on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. All right, that's the much we can take in the Vanguard for today. Jennifer, one more. Please, I would still like to get your reaction on this story here on page 9. It says second Niger bridge opens to traffic next month. Please, let me get your reaction to that.
Yes, there's a town bob on the side of Babatunde Fashola, the Minister of Transportation. That's because recall that last year, as the Utah season was fast approaching, they also gave Nigerians this promise, especially people from the southeast. You know, that particular road is a very busy road. So having just the River Niger Bridge, that single lane there, is not doing justice to the movement of people that coming into Onitsha, coming from Asaba, the people that are coming from this other side of Owerri, and even from Lagos. It's not an easy one. And knowing that Easter is already here, they said it's May 15th. It's not open yet, but I'm happy. They're doing a great job. That road, it links to different places, Delta State, to different places. Is a bravo on the side of the federal government. It's also a bravo on the side of Fashola. They've really done a good job. So if it becomes opened, the public, the Nigerian citizens, are actually going to benefit from it. So we are waiting. We are waiting for that to happen. Okay. We're waiting for that to happen.
All right, we are waiting for that to happen. Yes. These are the words of Jennifer, waiting for that to happen. Okay, so we'll be back after this short break to give you more headlines in the last paper for today. Please stay tuned.
Hey there, are you looking to record your videos, do your voiceovers, and take your professional pictures? Look no further. With our state-of-the-art newsroom, photography, kitchen for our food content creators, and exclusive children's studio, we certainly can deliver the best studio experience. Our carefully designed studio space can bring your diverse creative content ideas to life. We aim to consistently serve value to our customers far and wide. Come, let Tharv Media give life to your dreams. Tharv Media, a slice of infotainment.
Yes, you are welcome back from that short break, and taking you now to our next and last paper for today. We shall be looking at the Daily Sun newspaper, where we have more interesting headlines. This one on page 6 says, the boldest headline here says, Soyinka gives a damning verdict on last elections. Soyinka gives damning verdict on last elections. Okay, says polls, one of worst in Nigeria. Okay, that story is on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Okay, let's look at the one on page 27 here, which says post-subsidy palliatives. FG secures $800 million from World Bank. Targets 50 million Nigerians. Post-subsidy palliatives. FG secures $800 million from World Bank. Targets 50 million Nigerians. Okay, that's the reason on page 27. And let's look at the one on page 4 here, which says 8 students, others kidnapped. According to Kaduna government, 8 students, others kidnapped. That's according to Kaduna government on page 4 of Daily Sun. On page 26, this one says, Court stops Julius Abure from parading self as Labour Party chair. Court stops Julius Abure from parading self as Labour Party chair. That story is on page 26 of the Daily Sun. On page 29, we have Igbo should come home for census to prove our large population, according to IPOP. Igbo should come home for census to prove our large population. That's IPOP saying on page 29 of the Daily Sun. On page 28 now we have federal government to build 15 psychiatric outposts in Southeast. Federal government to build 15 psychiatric outposts in Southeast. That's the reason on page 28. On page 27 we have stop giving credence to IPOP. FG tells Western nations. Stop giving credence to IPOP. Federal government tells Western nations. Alleges group destabilizing Nigeria with funds raised from them. That's on page 27 of Daily Sun. On page 26 now we have treason claim. Federal government, APC overheating polity, according to Uwazirike. On page 26. On page 27 again, we have Obasanjo writes UK court seeks leniency for Ekweremadu. Okay, we saw this before in the previous paper. And lastly, in the Daily Sun for today, we have on page 23, this one says, NSIA, Vitol signed carbon avoidance removal projects agreement. Okay, we've seen this before as well in the last papers. That's the much you can take on the Daily Sun for today. Jennifer, one more, please. Let me get your reaction again as well to this particular headline here on page 27. On page 27, which says post-subsidy palliatives, federal government secures $800 million from World Bank, targets 50 million Nigerians. Please react to this.
Thank you very much, Cyril. See, before I go into this, I want to tell you that Nigeria is my country and I love this my country very well. $800 million from World Bank, post-palliative. Remember that the NLC have told the federal government that if you want to remove the subsidy on fuel, that you have to make sure that the refineries are working properly. That's that. And if we look at the state of Nigerians right now, the state of the citizens in this country, we shouldn't be talking about removal of fuel subsidy. That is that. And now, Nigeria's debt right now is about 77 trillion naira. And we've gone to do what? It's like you're borrowing to pay. When you're borrowing to pay, you're still owing. You are still owing, for Christ's sake. Targeted at 10 million Nigerians. How do you want to disburse this fund? Is it going to come as a grant? Is it going to come as a loan? Are there special people that are actually going to benefit from this $800 billion, right? $800 billion if I'm right. So
million, actually.
Million, 800 million. Is this what we are ought to go through? Remember that it's just barely 2 months for Mr. President, Mr. Mohamed Buhari, to leave the office. So who will pay this debt? That will be the president-elect, Tinubu. How is he going to pay this? He will pay the 77 trillion naira. He will add this one. Why is Nigeria securing debts, for Christ's sake? For me, the removal of the subsidy right now is not the main thing. In my opinion, I would say that's not the main thing. But right now that we're talking, this money have already been secured. It's been borrowed.
Okay.
So what form do they want to use in disbursing this? So when you disburse it, then you remove the subsidy, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes into office, then suffering continues for Nigerians. That is it.
Okay.
It's been looked at that when the subsidy is removed from fuel, that is from petrol, that a liter of petrol will be about 750 naira or even 1,000 naira.
Huh. Wow. That's a huge one.
That is a huge one. So are you paying us for are you paying Nigerians? I'm not using us, because Nigeria is about 200 million people. And you're targeting 10 million households. What happens to the rest? That means you're trying to tell us that the suffering continues, because with this particular step, the suffering continues. I don't see anything as post-palliative. Post-palliative is going to go to the pockets of the politicians. It's actually, we saw what happened during the COVID-19 lockdown. Sorry, after the lockdown.
Okay.
We saw what happened. So are they promising us that the music will change tone? Is that what they're promising us? If they're promising us that is fair, but I still stick to it that removal of the subsidy is not the best right now, because we don't even have working refineries. We don't have anything right now. There's no employment.
Okay, so you're saying
Yes.
you're saying we should concentrate on making our refineries work first.
Make our refineries work, then create employment.
Okay. All right.
Create employment. If there is employment, then make our infrastructure facilities, the companies to work. Then what are we looking at?
All right.
That is this assignment right now is there. This assignment is waiting for the incoming president, the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This particular assignment is what is waiting for him. That's what should be waiting for him. How do you create employment? How do you make Nigeria to go higher? How do you make us to leave consumption to production?
Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for your thoughts on that headline. With all you've said, it means there's so much work waiting on the desks, waiting on the table for our president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. By the time he gets inaugurated as the president of Nigeria, obviously there'll be so much work for him, and we pray that God gives him the strength to handle Nigeria very well, and we pray that he doesn't get to the point where he starts traveling out every two weeks for checkup, like what we already used to. We pray he's not a traveling president, but a president that has come that dwells in the country and has come to stay in the country. All right, thank you so much, Jennifer, for your time once again.
I
really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you too to my wonderful viewers, to you who have been faithful to your screen up until this time, because this program won't be possible without you. Thank you so much once again. My name is Cyril Aloysius, and this is the end of the newspaper review for today. Please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. And after subscribing, try and turn on your notification bell so that you know when we come online and drop our new videos as well. You can also check us out and follow us on our different social media platforms. You can check us out on YouTube. We are TAF TV on YouTube, on Instagram, with TAF TV_NG on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter with TAF TV. Thank you so much once again. Until we come your way again next time, do enjoy the rest of your days. Bye for now.